is hard. It's all in Chinese and it's hard. That's all I have to say about that. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. Ni hao. They're just so cute. No, the dinosaurs.
The coffee company?
The coffee company, yeah.
Oh,
Brady might give me dinosaurs. 大家好，欢迎来到我的频道。很高兴你能来参观我的 YouTube. If you came here from last week's video, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Inosuke! And if you are new here, you should probably know what I'm talking about because I am literally sitting on a stack of textbooks. So this will be a textbook review of the HSK textbook series. Now, last week I talked about HSK 1 through 3, these first 3 books, and it went longer than expected, so here is the sequel for HSK 4 through 5. So stick around to hear more about that.
That was a buffet.
This was a buffet, yes, it was a buffet. But before we talk about that, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon members, Nelson Badillo and my mom. I really appreciate you guys for helping me make really awesome content. Let's get on with the video. HSK prioritizes the breadth of the words as opposed to the depth of the words. They prioritize bread. I like bread. I love bread. I make my own bread. After utilizing these books, you will not be fluent. It is a really, really good starting point to help you immerse in native content. There's 2 books. They're hefty boys. We got Shang, which is 4.1, and Xia, which is 4.2. HSK3, you learn 300 words. HSK4, you learn 600 words. We have just doubled the amount of content that we have. This will feel jarring. It will take you much longer to get through HSK4 than it is through HSK3, and we'll see why. If we go on to page 56, the texts are very long. If we look at page 57, it's now turned into half of a page for one dialogue. That will seem challenging at first, and it will be challenging, but again, over time, you'll learn to make this your new normal. So you will learn a tremendous amount because of the way that this has been structured. So the topics are also very broad. Each topic is different and they start to become more abstract. In HSK2, if you remember, we talked about how you're wearing too little clothing. That's an easier thing to comprehend because it's all tangible. This chapter, the topic is 教育孩子的艺术, which means the art of educating children. You can see how this may be more challenging because of the abstract nature of what we're talking about. How does one educate children? What is important in educating children? And now we have 3 different dialogues that will talk about how does one educate a child. So instead of having 4 dialogues as with HSK3, now we have 3 dialogues, but each dialogue is half a page. Again, we just have the pinyin and the characters, which is very useful. But also the amount of words that we learn per chapter is much larger. The books really emphasize using previously learned vocabulary, previously learned structures to help reinforce what's going on, which is huge. So even though there is a pretty decent amount of words that are new, because the length of the dialogues are much longer, it is more of a seamless transition, which is pretty nice. As with HSK3 though, you will see words that are not in the list. You will see words that have been split, and you have to kind of figure out what's going on with that. Another thing you'll notice in HSK4 is that the grammar within the dialogues tends to be way more complicated, and it can get kind of confusing at times to figure out what exactly is going on. So if you look at page 59, if we scroll through dialogue 3 to around the middle to the end, there's an example sentence that will highlight this. So it says, 不仅起不到孤立的作用. So this sentence means not only does it serve as incentive. Even in English, that's kind of confusing. It's really hard to kind of understand what does this mean in context of the dialogue as a whole. And there's other ways that you can translate it. Like, not only does it encourage or not encourage, or how else would you encourage a child to do a certain behavior. So the crux of this is it's implying we want to teach this child a certain type of behavior, and how can we go about doing that? Now, how do you express that in Chinese? How do you express it in English? It's very challenging. So there will be instances of you need to spend more time trying to figure out what something is saying. That's pretty indicative of what will happen in native content, honestly. So It is going to be challenging at times, but it will help prepare you for native content pretty well, in my opinion. If we look at page 60 and 61, again, we have similar notes, pretty similar and standard to HSK3, just a bit more extensive. They have more examples. They do have practices as well, but I don't do them. I just read the sentences. The example sentences tend to be longer. They tend to include more unknown words, so you'll have to do more work with that, but it overall is really comprehensive and pretty useful in terms of helping you understand the Chinese and not translating to English. If we look at page 62 and 63, there's a new section here. It's called differences. This is comparing two words that are similar but have nuances in terms of their usage. I think this is very helpful as you're getting introduced to words that mean the same thing or a very similar thing but are utilized in different contexts. There is very little help in terms of how do you understand this text. You'll have to go through it and study it yourself in order to understand the Chinese version of it. Now, one of the most useful things I think about this particular level is, along with 3 dialogues, it gives you 2 essays now. So HSK3, we had 1 essay. Now we have 2 separate texts that each give you different arguments, and they are much longer now. So you have more connecting words, you have more essays that are like, this person says this, but I think this way, or research shows that this happens. So how does the population interact with that? I think it's very beneficial to really study these texts because it helps you understand both colloquialized language from the dialogue, how do people actually speak, versus more formal dialogue. How do people convey information in a more structured manner? Another section that it has is called expansion. This is on page 68 and 69. So basically, it's going to give you words that have one character that is similar across multiple words. Words are built up of characters. Sometimes, even though it has the same character, it won't mean the same thing. So how do we not confuse these similar looking words that are built up of similar looking characters? This will help you to go through that, and I think it is very beneficial to see the differences between the usages of these different words. On page 71, you'll see that there's a more extensive culture section. There's a lot more text, but it helps you to understand some of the more valued things that are in Chinese culture. So this one that I'm looking at right now is a folklore story. This guy named Mencius. So he was a famous thinker and educator of ancient China, lived in 372 BC. This story is telling you of this guy and how certain things that he did impacts the way that certain values are viewed in China. So I think it is very useful to go through these culture sections just to get an understanding of how do people from this language think. You know, it's an aspect of respect, not only learning the structure of the language, how to speak it, but also how does one incorporate it into their lifestyle? How does one interact with it? Things that are integral to the language are also apparent in the culture, and what things in the culture actually influence the language and how it's spoken. So you guys know the coffee things that I have on the wall? Those are from actual coffee that I've had previously. Look at this. It's like such cute designs, and I just cut it out, posted it on my wall. But then my coffee company also gives some stickers.
You own the coffee company?
I do not own a coffee company. I wish. That would be it's not my life goal, but it would be pretty cool to own a coffie company. Brandywine, please sponsor me. HSK4-5, this is the big boy. Again, this has 2 parts, Shang and Xia. This one is hard. I'm currently on this level, and it's way more challenging than all the other ones. There was a learning curve between 3 and 4. The learning curve between 4 and 5 is unreal. And I'm still figuring out how to utilize these books because it really does mimic more native-like content. So it's very beneficial to transition into actual native content while still helping you be in that sweet spot of comprehensible input. The dialogues are longer, and there's one teeny little thing that you will notice which will increase the difficulty level very significantly. Whew! But we'll start off with chapter 1 on this one because I am not finished with this series yet, so we'll do what I have. First things first, when you look at this book, I'll show you this book here. Look at all my notes. There's so many words I have no idea what's going on. There's so many grammar explanations. that I have to put in because it's just so much. Like, one, it's giving me, 38 words per dialogue. So one thing to note, there's only one dialogue per chapter. This dialogue though, well, technically it's not a dialogue, this text, it gives you one text per chapter. This text spans 2 pages, sometimes 3 pages. It's a lot. 38 new words for this one specific chapter, but then they also include words that are not in the chapter at all. It's like so hard. It's really hard. And here's the other thing. There's no pinyin ever, which I think is fine. That's okay. Like, I can deal with that. That's fine. But go on to page 4. The grammar is all in Chinese and there's no English whatsoever in this book. This is so hard. Like, my grammar notes are even more extensive than my text notes. Look at that. It's just, I have no idea what's happening. So this book will really challenge you. And after you're done with this, you could pretty much go on to native content because you already know how to do things. You already know how to look things up. You already know how to like be immersed in something you have no idea what's going on. And I don't know, I haven't looked at HSK6 yet, so I'm not sure of the utility of that, but like by the end of this book, you'll know 2,500 words. So why not just go into native content, watch TV shows and study that, read novels and study that, because this will definitely prepare you for that journey. But let's go through it a little bit more carefully. So we'll start off on page 2 and 3. We can see that this entire dialogue is going through one topic. This one is about the details of love. So all the things that we're learning are different things concerning love. And one thing you'll notice through looking at what the words are actually saying, they're kind of different. They're not all what you would consider typical for this topic. We have very normal things like an I, which is loving, the love of a husband and a wife. But then later down you have 瘫痪, which is to be paralyzed, and then 离婚, which is divorce, and then you have 歪歪扭扭, which is crooked and askew, and then you have 蚊子, which is a mosquito. How do these things all fit together? It's interesting because when you first look at the chapter, you're like, this makes no sense, this will never work, and it's kind of annoying why they're incorporating so many unrelated things. But they actually combine it in the story very well, in a way that you do remember what's going on. So the first couple talks about how they stuck together even though one of them got severely injured and was paralyzed for a while, and how their love grew much stronger as a result of it. The second couple talks about how they treat each other very well. They treat each other as intimate friends and rarely quarrel with each other. The third couple talks about how the husband stayed up all night trying to clear away this mosquito because he was worried that his wife would wake up as a result of it. So even though looking at the vocab list, it seems like it's very unrelated, in context of the larger story, it makes sense. We basically have 3 mini stories put together in one larger narrative. Grammar is hard. It's all in Chinese and it's hard. That's all I have to say about that. It's still manageable though, but you will have to learn a lot of new vocabulary. And honestly, you may not even need to go through the grammar if you can still understand everything else in the dialogue, but it is there, and I do find it useful personally to figure out what's going on, because ultimately understanding how the grammar works and conveying grammar terms in Chinese will help me in the future as I become more advanced and switch to just utilizing all Chinese things or the monolingual transition. It will help me to look at a Chinese dictionary and understand what's going on with that word, as opposed to having to always translate it back to English. So it is very useful. And then looking at 6 and 7, I don't really know what's going on with most of this, and I think that's okay. Because again, my philosophy is utilize the content in terms of dialogues. So these are more exercises. You can do more exercises. You can spend the time to figure out what's going on with these individual components. But at the same time, you could also just read through more dialogues, which will build up your fluency much more quickly and more thoroughly than spending your time trying to go through all the different exercises. This is useful in context of a class. If you're self-studying, it's going to cause a lot of confusion because you don't have someone to go to if you don't understand what is the exercise actually telling you to do. So you can use it as more comprehensive input, but you can also skip it, which is what I like to do. So if we go to page 8, we'll see that there is another application section. In the other books, I have mentioned that I don't use the application section. However, this is actually very useful in HSK5. Why? It's all in Chinese again, and it's just a paragraph, a complete paragraph of culture, all in Chinese. So again, more comprehensible input. This is more words, more arguments, more ideas that you can use to help increase your knowledge of the culture and your understanding of the language. There's going to be a lot of words that you won't know though, because it's not a part of the official dialogues and the official vocab lists, but it is very useful to help you understand these more important cultural aspects of it. So I do recommend going through that. They do have questions after the main text, but I just focus on the main text. But that is HSK in a nutshell. More than a nutshell. That was definitely more intense than I anticipated.
That was a buffet.
This was a buffet. Yes, it was a buffet. Hopefully you guys enjoy buffets. Thanks for sticking with me for 2 videos on this. But as some final thoughts for HSK, you will notice this more so in the later levels, so 4 and 5 and definitely 6, more so than 3, 2, and 1. The vocabulary that is chosen to be a part of these books, they span a wide range of topics. They include a wide variety of domains, but they prioritize width, breadth? Wide? What is that? I don't know. Breadth. They prioritize bread. I like bread. I love bread. I make my own bread. HSK prioritizes the breadth of the words as opposed to the depth of the words. After utilizing these books, you will not be fluent. You will still have a lot to go. Even after HSK6, and after HSK6, you should know 5,000 words. It's not enough because they don't give you all of the words associated with one particular topic. They give you a lot of words associated with that topic, but then also a lot of words associated with another topic and another topic and another topic. So I do think that this is useful to help you go into more native content, because even though you don't know everything about one particular thing, you can watch content or read content of a variety of different topics, and you should know a little bit about each one. So it will help you to get a kickstart on that type of content. So I do think even though it's not comprehensive to get you to fluency, you will need to do more work after utilizing these books. It is a really, really good starting point to help you immerse in native content and kickstart that language acquisition theory thought process of how we acquire language, which is content. Focus on immersion. These books will help you and train you to be able to immerse in native content. So that's just one caveat to share. But yeah, that's my review on the HSK textbooks. I will do one on workbooks maybe, but workbooks are fairly simple. They just give you more content, so go through them to get more content. And that's about it for workbooks. They're pretty good though at giving you more content. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content like this and for more other things, whatever I like to do. But I will see you guys next time. 再见!